Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Women Who Composed interview. I'm Lisa Newill-Smith, and today I'll be interviewing Ella Milch-Sheriff, an Israeli composer. Her pieces have been performed all over, including in Germany and Israel. And next week, I will be performing her oratorio, Shacharit, with the Synagogue Ensemble Berlin in a live stream performance in the Potsdam Nikolai-Kirche. Okay, let's get started. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you.
How's the weather there? Is it?
Wow, it's beautiful. We have such a beautiful weather here. It's not too warm, it's not too cold. The sky is blue and it's really lovely.
I have to say I'm jealous. It is gray.
I'm sure. I know how Germany is in November, December. It can be really great.
Yes. So what inspired you to start composing? Like, can you tell us a bit more about your background and your journey to becoming a composer?
Yeah. Well, I started playing the piano at the age of 8. And when I was 12, suddenly, you know, without any preparation or nobody has told me to do so, I started to compose songs to various texts. My father was a gynecologist and my mother helped him. She was very musical, but nobody played at home. And it was really my initiative to start composing. And so I composed songs and I played the piano. And even one of my songs when I was in the army became a hit. But then I went to the music academy and very quickly my compositions became more complicated and not songs anymore. And so that was the start. It was really, it came from myself, not from any encouragement that somebody from my neighborhood told me to compose or to try to compose.
Oh, that's really interesting. So who or what are your influences then, aside from just kind of where do you get your inspiration from, I guess?
Well, I would say there is not one composer that I can point off that was the most influential on my music. I think I was influenced by everything I heard in my childhood and later on. As a child born in Israel, a sabra, as we say here, I was exposed first as I was playing the piano. I was exposed to the European music, you know, everything from Bach onwards. And but I was very much exposed to Israeli pop music and also to Arabic music, which I heard as a child in Haifa, my born city, my native city. So I heard Arabic music in the restaurants, and all this was a mixture of European music and Middle Eastern sounds. Everything came into what I now compose, actually.
Cool.
But if I would say, as I think that Shostakovich speaks to me very much. And as Shostakovich is part of the 20th century music, but still very traditional, I would say that he's a kind of a model for me.
Oh, I love Shostakovich. It's incredible. And I guess, what's your process for composing? Yeah, how do you kind of, from start to finish?
Okay, so if I'm thinking about, let's say, the last maybe 16, 17 years, I would say that I'm one of the luckiest composers that get commissions all the time. So usually I get a commission, but not a specific commission. For instance, if I get a commission from an orchestra, I usually can choose if I want to compose for the orchestra alone, or for a singer and an orchestra, or a couple of singers, or choir and an orchestra. And also the subject is due to my decision. So usually that's the case. I get a commission from a choir, or from an orchestra, or from an ensemble, and then I compose whatever I decide and they agree. But sometimes I have an idea and I go to an orchestra and I say, I would like to compose this and that, or this opera. And I find a theater or an orchestra or an ensemble that would like to commission this work that I would like to compose. But I'm really lucky because everything I composed in the last 17, 18 years, including all the operas. I composed 4 operas until now, and all of them were performed even more than once, even more than by one Besetzung ensemble. Yeah.
That's great. What's it like seeing your, or watching your music and hearing your music being performed?
So I was at the beginning, I was very strict and not so very tolerant and not very nice to my performers, because I really wanted it to sound exactly as I wrote, the same tempo, the same dynamics, everything. But with the time and experience, I realized that there is a lot of beauty in different interpretations, and in putting inside my music the wish and the character of the performer. And each performance of my piece became something different. And I became very happy with different interpretations. So usually the first rehearsal is somehow frustrating because the players do not know the music so well, especially with orchestras. The orchestra players are not always taking the parts before the rehearsal home and practice. So the first time they see the notes are in the first rehearsal. So first rehearsal, sometimes I tend not to go to, or if I go, I prepare myself to be frustrated and not to say anything, but wait for the second rehearsal. But, you know, it's very moving and I'm very excited. It's like a birth every time to hear the music that until the moment it is performed, it is only black spots on a paper or on the computer, and suddenly it gets the life, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It's really interesting. Did you experience any like resistance as a woman entering the composing field?
Well, yes and no. Actually, as I started as a composer, but at the same time, I was singing. At first in a choir and then as a soloist. And then I abandoned the composition for years and I was only singing. And then I came back to composing. And it was very strange for many people that a singer and a woman singer wants to be a woman composer. So, you know, but in Israel, we do have quite a lot of women composers. And I don't think I felt any problem being a woman composer, also in Germany and all over the world. I was performed so many times, and I think the only thing that matters was if the music is good or not.
Yeah, interesting. It's definitely good. I love the oratorio, is so cool. I love it. I've been to a couple of rehearsals now, and it's amazing music. So, which might be a hard question. Which of your pieces is closest to your heart? Like, which is your favorite, I guess?
Yeah. Well, it's really hard to say. I cannot specify one specific piece, but I would say that I have a work for which is 1 hour long, based on the Bible, the song, Hohelied, Solomon's Song of Songs in English, Shir HaShirim in Hebrew. It's a work for soprano, 3 male singers, and an instrumental ensemble. And I am very fond of this piece, which was performed also in Potsdam, by the way, and also in other places. I'm very fond of Shacharit, the work that is going to be performed now and you are going to sing. which I really meant to compose just beautiful music. I didn't want to compose an avant-garde music or even not a very modern music, just beautiful music that the people would love to listen to, which is, not very much done nowadays. It's like forbidden to compose such music today. So I did something terrible by composing simply beautiful music. So I like Shacharit very much. And there is another work which I'm very fond of. It's a string quartet with a mezzo-sopran, which is called Songs from the Edge. You can find it on YouTube. And this is a five movements piece based on text by an American poet, a doctor who had breast cancer, and while getting the treatment, she wrote those poems. And unfortunately, she passed away 3 years ago. But when she was healthy, she wrote these poems, and I composed this work. So Songs from the Edge, I'm very fond of as one of my works. But, maybe I forgot several others, but these three, I'm standing before these works as maybe one or three of my best works.
I guess what's your favorite instrument or ensemble to compose for? Like if you could choose your ideal, what would it be?
Yeah, well, I love the voices. This is my ideal. And if I would have to choose, I would love to compose operas. The operatic genre is for me the best I can express myself as a composer, because it has the voices, it has the choir, and it has the orchestra and all various ensembles that you can use in the opera. And as I love the theater and the drama, and always you can find in my works, even if it's only instrumental, you can find always a drama in it. So the opera is the best to express what I have to say in music. So the voice and the opera, and of course the choir and the singers are my very favorite ones.
And you've written 4 operas, right? So far?
Yes.
I guess, how do you choose your words? Like how do you decide what lyrics you're going to set?
What text?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, it's a very interesting process, which I don't have a definite answer. It's very strange. Sometimes I take great poetry, and I know I am not able to compose music to it. There is no space there for music. And sometimes poetry, which maybe is not such a great poetry, but it has the space for me to bring into it the music. So this process happens with me very fast. If I want to choose poetry for a work of mine, and I decide to look at some books of poetry, I actually find the poems that I want to use very fast. And then it's a very intuitive process that I simply know this is it. And also in the work Shacharit, Dawn, yeah, das Morgengebet, you know, the prayer, Shacharit, Dawn, the morning prayer, is very, very long. Actually, something like 3 hours to say everything. And I simply took the text and I read it very fast. And I marked the sentences which I wanted to use. And it happened very fast to choose the words, the text that I want to take to my piece. So it's quite an interesting process, which is very individual, very subjective to me. I don't know if another composer will answer you the same answer. It's probably different between one composer to the other.
Our last question is sort of about the future. Do you have any upcoming projects, and have they been affected by 2020? And sort of what are your kind of plans for the next time?
Okay, so the year 2020 should have been the happiest year for me as a composer. I should have had many premieres and concerts all over the world. And most of them were canceled or postponed. Still, I was able, in spite of my terrible depression because of all these cancellations, I composed 2 different works, and one of them, the latest work I composed, based on texts by the poet Else Lasker-Schüler. I don't know if you heard about her. Else Lasker-Schüler lived in the 20th century. She was a German Jewish poet who wrote in German and was and is considered to be one of the most important poets who wrote in the German language of the 20th century. And I based a work for soprano and orchestra on her texts as a commission of the Bochumer Symphoniker, the symphony orchestra of the city of Bochum, Germany. And it will be premiered next February in Bochum.
Great.
By the soprano Rebecca Nelson and the conductor Stephen Sloan. So this is actually my last composition. I've just finished composing it, and I'm already busy with my next opera, which is an opera based on the life of Alma Mahler, the wife of Gustav Mahler. Alma Mahler, Gropius, Werfel, who had so many husbands and lovers and had a very tragic life, in my opinion. And I have a wonderful libretto, and I'm working on it now, and I hope very much that it will be premiered in Germany in the coming years.
That sounds really cool. I will hopefully be able to travel by then and go see it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I guess one last thing, I know 2020 has changed how a lot of artists work. You know, we're more isolated. We're used to kind of, at least singers especially, we're very used to working with lots of other people regularly, and 2020 has kind of made that very difficult. Has that changed how you have worked, or have you just kind of kept on going the same way?
Yeah, well, in the beginning, it was impossible for me to create. I didn't have the concentration, and you know, everything was so new and unknown, what's going to happen, and I didn't have the peace of mind that I need to sit down and compose. But then, I don't know how, but I found the way to concentrate and compose first small pieces like miniatures for different ensembles, and then this work, which is quite a large scale work for a soprano and orchestra. But still, it took much longer to compose than I usually am used to. So the concentration, I lost the concentration very quickly. And if I could work 7 hours a day, very concentrated, then during the worst Corona time, I could work half an hour or 1 hour, and then I was terribly tired. So the work took for me 4 months instead of 1 month to compose. But never mind, still I was able to do it. And I learned that once you have the character of a creator, you can create in almost every situation. Yeah, but it was and still is very difficult times for everybody, and for our cultural world, especially in Israel. Unfortunately, we don't have theater, we don't have concerts. We have live streaming of several ensembles, but you know, it's not the same. The museums, couple of museums now are opened, but too few people who can go inside. So, you know, it's really hard, but we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I hope very much that maybe the next year will be easier.
Yes, I think we're all definitely hoping for that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's all the questions I have. And is there anything else that you would like to say?
No, I think we covered everything. Thank you very much for the interview. And I really wish for the concert to go well and that you continue enjoying my music. And I will be watching the concert.
Great. And yes, thank you so much for agreeing to this and being such a lovely conversationalist. So,
Okay, thank you
thank
very
you.
much. Bye-bye.